All right, so one question that we see asked all over the internet almost every single day, but never gets a clear and concise answer is, what is it like to eat vegan or vegetarian while traveling in Japan?
Welcome back to our channel, Sarah and Chance Worldwide, and today we're gonna go over exactly that.
So if you know who we are, you know that we are both vegan and we have traveled all over Japan 5 times. And in those 5 times, we've learned a ton about eating vegan, vegetarian, plant-based in Japan.
Our first trip in 2017, when we went to Japan, we had absolutely no hope for vegan food in Japan. Everyone we knew told us it was impossible to be vegan in Japan. We even brought our own bag of beans that we planned on surviving on for the 3 weeks we were gonna be there.
Yep, beans and peanuts.
And on our 5th trip, if we could have given that knowledge that we had from our 5th trip to our first trip self, we would have had absolutely no cares in the world, no worries at all. So in today's video, we're gonna go over 10 points that will help you feel equipped with the right knowledge and resources to have an easy and exciting time as a vegan or vegetarian in Japan.
So we're gonna cover things such as apps and resources to have available on your phone or computer while traveling, all the way to our personal recommendations, all the places we've been in Japan. So if you're here to have a specific question answered, check out the description box below. We're gonna have timestamps going over everything that we're gonna discuss, so you can go check out all of the things you're gonna learn in today's video.
Okay, so let's jump right into it with the first thing that we wish we would have known our first trip to Japan, and that is the basic resources of Happy Cow to find vegan, vegetarian, veg option restaurants all over Japan, as well as the website called Visual.
So Happy Cow is a location-based service that's downloadable as an app on iPhone and Android devices. It can basically pull up all of the restaurants in your area closest to you that have vegan option, vegetarian options, and then restaurants that are fully vegan or vegetarian.
Yeah, so if you're not even in Japan yet and you want to find out the places you're going to, if you're going to have anything to eat, you can also just search a location. You can even search your address that you're going to be at, and then it'll come up with a list of everything around you. You can change all the things on it, like saying like vegan options, vegetarian options, or distance from where you are.
So it's a really helpful app to have to make sure that the area that you're planning on staying in Japan has vegan or vegetarian food accessible in a close proximity to your accommodation.
Visual is another popular option. We don't really use that one too much, but it's basically the same idea, but it's made by people who live in Japan. There's an English page for it, so you might be finding more unique places. Whereas Happy Cow is community-based and everyone that travels uses it and can add whatever they would like.
But it is important to note that with the language and cultural barriers in Japan as compared to more Western countries, it is still sometimes a little misleading in the veg options filter or even the vegetarian restaurant filter as to whether or not you're going to be eating a fully vegan meal. So the best way to make sure that the place that you're going is able to accommodate your dietary restrictions and lifestyle choices is to make sure that you're reading the full reviews available on the Happy Cow app, clicking on those photos, making sure it's updated and relevant to this year instead of 4 years ago, 5 years ago, because you will oftentimes find that a review will say, this place no longer serves vegans. So be careful, make sure that you're really doing your research.
Yeah, it could be something as simple as a vegetarian restaurant having bonito, which is fish flakes on top of something, and Japanese culture, at least on our first trip, fish was sometimes actually considered vegetarian, and there was no real differentiation between vegetarian and vegan. It has gotten a lot better as of now, and I don't think you'll have that issue, but just in case, you want to make sure you read all of those. And that leads us into our second point, which is the easiest way to ensure that you're eating a vegan meal in Japan, and that is to go into Happy Cow, go to the vegan restaurants only tab, and go to those places.
Yeah, it's really, really ideal to eat at vegan specific restaurants, just because not only do you have the peace of mind knowing that nothing in the kitchen that is being prepared is not vegan or is an animal derivative product, But it's also, just in our experience, the way to get the most delicious meals because you're eating food that's prepared by cooks and chefs that are specifically there to make vegan food, not just a vegan option on the menu.
The only downfall of this is that eating at all vegan restaurants can get pricey very quickly, which we learned immediately on our first trip to Japan after finding out that there were vegan restaurants all over Tokyo. So I want that to go into our third point, which will give you another option for when you run out of money off your daily restaurant budget, which is convenience stores.
So Japan has a huge amount of convenience stores all over every part of Japan. There are 1,000 different kinds of convenience stores, the most popular being 7-Eleven, Family Mart, and Lawson.
Now, if you haven't been to Japan and you're confused about this, because in America, you go to a convenience store, it's just chips and
gas,
soda. In Japan, convenience stores are almost grocery stores. You can go in there and get everything you need for a full meal for a fraction of the cost. Some of our favorite things to pick up from convenience stores are little bags of edamame, granola bars or like little granola snacks, fresh fruits and vegetables, these little veggie stick chip things that are super good. And if we're feeling pretty desperate and we haven't had anything substantial in a while, we'll get little salted rice balls or onigiri. All of these items can be found really easily and for a decent price, except for maybe fresh fruits, because those tend to be expensive depending on the season and everything like that.
So there are even more delicious things that you can find at convenience stores for vegans and vegetarians, and we will get into that in just a second. But first we want to bring up the next point, which is that it's not enough just to read the ingredient list on the back of packages like it works in America and probably in whatever country you live in too, because unfortunately in Japan, the laws surrounding allergens needing to be reported on packaged goods are a lot less strict than they are in other parts of the world.
And not only just allergens, they can leave off whole ingredients depending on how much is in the product. So even if it says it doesn't have any animal products in it, you might be missing the 3% beef fat that they put in there or something as small as that.
Yeah, so basically they just don't, companies in Japan just don't have to tell you everything that's in their products, which makes it a little harder to be vegan or vegetarian while shopping in Japan. So unfortunately, the best way to guarantee that a product is vegan or vegetarian is to actually call the company that makes that product and ask.
Yeah, you can either email them or call them, which could take forever. And if you don't have any Japanese knowledge, you're pretty much not going to get an answer unless they have an English response team, and then you're still waiting on that response just to get one snack.
Just standing around 7-Eleven.
And so the single most important resource as a vegan in Japan is isitveganjapan.com. We'll link this in the description below along with everything else we talk about, just so you can click it and get sent there.
So Is It Vegan Japan is a website that's run by a friend of ours who meticulously spends time updating and refreshing every single item that she has found in Japanese convenience stores and supermarkets to be vegan or vegetarian. So you can scroll down and see photos and descriptions of everything that you may be able to find in a convenience store, and it'll answer it for you there in English, whether or not it's vegan or vegetarian.
And whether they don't know about certain things about it, they haven't gotten back to them on certain things about it. And you can basically just go through and just make a whole snack list and just pick it all up based off of the website and know for sure that you're getting all vegan food. But it doesn't stop there. There's also a list of things you can get from supermarkets or department stores, ranging from beauty products to hygiene, household cleaning supplies, and anything you could possibly need to pick up, basically. They also have an encyclopedia of vegan festivals. So there's vegan food festivals, we've been to a couple of them, and there's a whole list of the ones that are happening. They'll update it if any of them get canceled because of the weather or something happens. Not only that, but you can also figure out how to read vegan ingredient labels, because it's different than obviously in America. It's set up differently, and if you didn't know what you were trying to translate, you wouldn't know how to translate it in the first place. As well as they have tabs for anything you could ever need as a vegan, food-wise, and so on.
Yeah, so if you're in Japan or traveling to Japan and planning on doing more than just eating at restaurants and you're on a budget, then isitveganjapan.com is going to save you a ton of time and effort that could be spent on just enjoying your time in Japan.
Speaking of isitveganjapan.com, they are also in the process of getting a petition signed right now to make food labels more accurate, especially for vegans and vegetarians. And we're going to leave a link in the description so you can go sign that if you'd like to. It's really helpful so far. They've even met with the board of directors for food labeling in Japan. So it'd really help out if you could just sign that petition down below.
So if you weren't able to tell from us so far or this video, we obviously have taken the point of view of a foreigner coming into Japan as a tourist. And so our outlook on being vegan and vegetarian in Japan is pretty good. We're pretty excited about it, pretty happy. We don't have very many complaints. But obviously, if you are someone who is living or planning on spending an extended amount of time in Japan as a vegan or vegetarian, you will have a little more disparity when it comes to finding food that you can be excited about.
And that brings us into our next point, which is the difference between being vegan in Tokyo and other major areas versus being vegan and vegetarian even in the countryside or rural parts of Japan. So if you didn't know, being vegan and vegetarian in Tokyo, maybe Osaka, Kyoto, all of the major areas of like the golden route that tourists go in Japan is going to be extremely easy to find vegan restaurants and vegan resources. But on one of our trips to Japan, we went down to Kushimoto, which is further south, and there wasn't even a vegan restaurant at all.
Yeah, not even within like 100 miles of where we were staying in southern Wakayama. There was nothing we could eat.
Since then, there's been one fruit stand that popped up on Happy Cow, so there's that. But we survived basically off of making food at our accommodations, having a kitchen.
Yeah, so that's a huge point that we want to go over, is the importance of having a kitchen in an Airbnb or hotel if you're going to be traveling outside the golden route of Japan. Having your own kitchen will help you so much in making sure that the food you eat is delicious and sustainable and cheap.
Yeah, so you can basically go to a convenience store, if you're lucky, a supermarket if it's nearby, and just pick up all the ingredients that you need or ever will need to make a food.
What food, please?
To make enough meals to sustain you for the entirety of the time that you'll be in those parts of Japan if you're not planning on going back to another place in Japan.
So some of our favorite meals that we have made ourselves in our Airbnbs while traveling in Japan are things like stir fries and ramen and sandwiches.
I would say sandwiches are kind of difficult to come by because vegan bread in Japan is very rare.
So sad.
But
bread.
If you can find it, then super easy. Peanut butter sandwiches. There you go.
Amazing. But yeah, curry, ramen, and stir fry are staples when we're traveling in rural Japan. They're all pretty easy to make in your accommodation as long as you have a kitchen, and pretty easy to find in convenience stores and supermarkets. So if you're only traveling in Tokyo and Osaka, you can kind of just ignore all of this because there are plenty of restaurants, but definitely keep in mind this tip if you're planning on traveling anywhere outside the Golden Route.
So now I want to talk about the cost of being vegan in Japan. Obviously, it's going to be more expensive to eat at vegan restaurants in Japan than it is to eat at omnivorous restaurants in Japan, as it is everywhere else in the world. At least it is like that here in America.
But just like everywhere else, there are expensive vegan restaurants and inexpensive vegan restaurants. So even if you are eating at majority restaurants during your time in Japan, you can still make it rather budget friendly. Obviously, the cheapest way to eat vegan and vegetarian in Japan would be to cook all of your own meals, but we know how time consuming that is. So realistically, just don't be afraid that eating out is going to be too much money for you to be able to manage.
Yeah, you can even just go on Happy Cow and sort by cheapest, basically. There's a $sign versus a $3 symbol. $sign being the cheapest, 3 being the most expensive. And that'll just cut down your list into what's the cheapest, and you'll still have plenty of to choose from, especially if you're in Tokyo.
Yeah, so basically there is no answer to how expensive it is to be vegan or vegetarian in Japan, because it really depends on your travel style. But we have lived together off of as little as 10 US dollars a day and as much as over 100 US dollars a day. And we've been happy doing both. So there's really something for everyone.
Definitely.
So we wanted to end this video today by just quickly giving y'all a list of our favorite restaurants that we've eaten at, all of the places that we've been in Japan.
Yeah, we'll leave a link down below in the description for all of these restaurants. Definitely check them out on Happy Cow, or if you're in Japan, go to any of these places because they're the ones that we love the most.
Yeah, so we're not gonna give you a whole lot of information of each of them because they are all online, but quickly, we're gonna list off our favorites, starting with Tokyo.
3 places that we go to the most in Tokyo would be Loving Hut for their buffets on Saturday, T's Restaurant as well as their sister restaurants, T's Tantan for ramen and everything else, and then Shiro Cafe if we're feeling bougie.
Our favorite place to eat in the KYOTO OSAKA region is called Paprika Shokudo, which is a cafe that's all vegan, and they have a huge menu with everything from fried chicken to pizza.
You know we can't not talk about Fukuoka, so in Fukuoka there's Funadeya, #1 place for basically just traditional Japanese style vegan food, and Panic Burger, which is basically like McDonald's but vegan. Insane.
Amazing. We actually only went to one single restaurant in our whole time in Kagoshima, and it was called Sri Lanka, and it was an Indian restaurant in the city of Kagoshima, and we would recommend that one.
They have those all over. Apparently they also have them in Hokkaido, which is our next stop.
In Sapporo, Hokkaido, our favorite places are Hulata Bakery, which if you watched our vlog series, we literally go there every day that we're in Sapporo for fresh baked muffins and breads, pastries, anything you want. We also like Holistic Bio Cafe Veggie Way. Long name, really good menu. They have parfaits and fried chicken, rice bowls, good stuff. And then a place called Aoisora, which we love for the desserts.
In Nagoya, we went to Queen's Healthy Diner and Poo Poo Kitchen. I know it's funny, but it's really good, you have to go. And lastly, but not least, Vegan Burger Nourish in the Kawasaki, Yokohama area, which is pretty close to Tokyo, but far enough away that it's its own place.
So yeah, on your trip to Japan, go to some or all of these places and you're destined to have an amazing and delicious vacation.
So there you have it. That's our list of everything we wish we would have known on our first trip to Japan and how to survive in Japan as a vegan or vegetarian. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to give us a thumbs up if you like this video, if you found it helpful. Share and subscribe for more vegan food and just adventures in general. We'll see you next time.
Bye.